The sneak peek for Bridgerton Season 5 doesn't give everything away, but it doesn't need to. The tone alone tells us that we are stepping into a completely different phase of the story. The light, playful energy we used to see is still there, but now it feels heavier, like something is about to break at any moment. And I'm telling you, this season is going to test relationships in a way we haven't seen before. Right from the beginning, there's this quiet tension, not the obvious kind, but the kind that builds slowly and makes you feel uncomfortable without knowing why. It's in the way characters look at each other, the pauses in conversations, and the feeling that everyone is hiding something. And when a show starts like that, you just know it's leading to something big. Now, let's talk about the biggest question: who is at the center of it all? The sneak peek clearly wants us to focus on Francesca and Eloise, but it's not making it easy. Instead of giving us clear answers, it shows us emotions, confusion, longing, hesitation. And that's what makes it so interesting. Francesca's journey already feels like it's going to be deeply emotional. After everything she went through, there's this sense that she's trying to move forward, but something is holding her back. And then there's Michaela. Even without saying much, her presence changes everything. You can feel it. There's this unspoken connection, something intense but also complicated. It's not simple, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. At the same time, Eloise feels different too. She's not the same person she was before. There's growth, but also uncertainty. It's like she's finally open to the idea of love, but she doesn't know what that looks like for her yet. And the sneak peek plays with that beautifully. It doesn't rush her story. Instead, it lets us sit in that confusion with her. But what really stands out is how all of these stories seem connected. This isn't just about one couple anymore. It feels like the entire Bridgerton world is evolving together. Friendships, relationships, even personal identities, everything is shifting. And that's what makes this season feel bigger. Another thing you can't ignore is the atmosphere. It feels more intense, almost like there's something constantly at stake. Even in moments that should feel soft or romantic, there's this underlying tension, like something could go wrong at any second. And if you've been watching the show from the beginning, you know that when it feels like this, something definitely will. And then there's the mystery. The sneak peek drops small hints, but never enough to fully understand what's going on. And that's intentional. It keeps you guessing. It makes you question every interaction, every glance, every word. Who can you trust? Who is hiding something? And what is about to be revealed? What makes it even more exciting is that this season doesn't seem afraid to take risks. The relationships are more complex, the emotions are deeper, and the choices the characters will have to make, they won't be easy. And that's exactly what we want. Because at the end of the day, Bridgerton has never just been about romance. It's about growth, about change, about finding yourself even when everything around you is falling apart. And if this sneak peek is anything to go by, Season 5 is going to push every character to their limits. Now let's go deeper. Because if you paid close attention to that sneak peek, you probably noticed that Francesca's story is not just continuing, it's transforming. And I don't mean in a simple, predictable way. No, this feels like the kind of story that will slowly build up and then completely overwhelm you when you least expect it. Francesca is no longer the quiet girl standing in the background. There's a shift in her presence. It's subtle, but it's there. The way she carries herself now feels heavier, like she's holding emotions she hasn't fully processed yet. And honestly, after everything she's been through, that makes perfect sense. But what's really interesting is how the sneak peek shows that she's trying to move forward while still being tied to her past. And this is where Michaela comes in. I'm telling you, their dynamic is going to be one of the most talked about parts of this season. There's something very intense about it, but also very delicate at the same time. It's not loud or obvious. Instead, it's built on small moments, quiet interactions, and emotions that neither of them fully understands yet. And that's what makes it feel so real. You can sense that Michaela is holding herself back. Not because she doesn't care, but because she cares too much. There's this emotional barrier, like she's afraid of crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed. And if you think about it, that makes everything even more complicated, because the more she tries to distance herself, the stronger the connection seems to become. At the same time, Francesca feels drawn to her in a way she can't explain. It's confusing for her. This isn't something she expected, and you can see that she's trying to make sense of it, but instead of clear answers, she's met with more questions. And that internal conflict, that's where the real story is going to unfold. Now here's the thing. This isn't just about romance. It's about timing, emotions, and the fear of what it all means. Francesca is still healing, still figuring out who she is after such a huge loss. And stepping into something new, something so different, isn't going to be easy. In fact, it might be one of the hardest things she's ever had to do. And I feel like the show is going to take its time with this. It's not going to rush into anything. Instead, it will let the tension build slowly. Every look, every conversation, every moment of silence, it's all going to matter. And by the time everything finally comes to the surface, it's going to hit hard. But here's where things get even more interesting. There's a strong chance that not everyone will understand or support what's happening. The Bridgerton world may be full of romance, but it also comes with expectations, rules, and judgment. And if Francesca and Michaela's relationship continues to grow, it's not going to go unnoticed. This could bring conflict not just from society, but also from within their own circle. Friends, family, people who care about them might struggle to accept what they're feeling, and that adds another layer of tension to an already complicated situation. And let's not forget one very important thing. The past is still present. John's memory is not going anywhere. It's going to be a constant part of Francesca's journey, and possibly Michaela's as well. And that raises a big question. How do you move forward when part of your heart is still holding on to what you lost? That's the emotional core of this story. It's not just about falling in love. It's about understanding it, accepting it, and finding the strength to embrace it even when it feels impossible. And if the sneak peek is hinting at anything, it's that this journey is going to be messy, emotional, and incredibly powerful. Now let's shift our focus to Eloise, because if you think her story is going to stay simple this season, it's not. In fact, the sneak peek makes it very clear that Eloise might be heading into one of the most complicated journeys we've seen so far. Eloise has always been different. She never fully believed in the idea of love the way everyone else did. Marriage, romance, all of it felt more like a trap to her than something beautiful. But now, something has changed, and you can feel it in the way she carries herself in this sneak peek. There's hesitation, yes, but there's also curiosity. It's like she's standing at the edge of something new, unsure whether she should take that step or walk away. And that internal conflict, that's what's going to drive her story forward. Because for the first time, Eloise isn't completely against love, she's just afraid of what it might mean for her. And of course, we have to talk about Theo, because let's be honest, the moment his name even comes up, everything becomes more interesting. The connection they shared wasn't just random, it was built on understanding, on shared beliefs, on the idea that they both saw the world differently from everyone else around them. And that kind of connection doesn't just disappear. The sneak peek doesn't confirm anything directly, but it definitely leaves hints. Small ones, but enough to make you question things. Could he come back? Could their story continue? Or is the show setting us up for something completely new? Because here's the twist. Eloise might not end up where we expect her to. There's a possibility that the show could introduce someone new, someone who challenges her in a different way, not just intellectually, but emotionally too. And if that happens, it could completely change the direction of her story. Because Eloise doesn't need someone who simply agrees with her. She needs someone who pushes her, someone who forces her to grow. But at the same time, going back to Theo would feel just as powerful. There's unfinished business there, unspoken feelings. And if Season 5 decides to explore that again, it's not going to be easy. Too much has happened. Too much has changed. And bringing them back together would mean facing all of that head-on. And let's not forget the pressure around her. Eloise is still part of the Bridgerton family, and with that comes expectations. Even if she's changed her perspective a little, she's not suddenly going to fit perfectly into that world. There's still going to be resistance, both from her and from the society around her, and that tension is going to play a huge role in how her story unfolds. What makes it even more interesting is how her journey might connect with Francesca's. Both of them are stepping into unfamiliar emotional territory. Both of them are questioning what love means to them. And both of them are going to face choices that could completely change their lives. And I feel like at some point, their stories are going to overlap in a meaningful way. Maybe through conversations, maybe through shared experiences, but one way or another, they're going to influence each other. And that dynamic could become one of the strongest parts of the season. Because at the end of the day, Eloise's story isn't just about romance. It's about identity. It's about figuring out who she is when everything she once believed starts to shift. It's about understanding that love doesn't have to take away her independence, but it might still change her in ways she never expected. And if the sneak peek is hinting at anything, it's that Eloise is about to face some very real, very emotional decisions.